Welcome to Nerdology, where we dive into the science behind consumer behavior, sensory research, and the latest hot topics in behavioral science. Quick insights, expert reviews, and conference highlights, all in bite-sized form. Let's get nerdy. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Nerdology, where we dig into the science behind consumer behavior in short, actionable episodes. My name's Michelle Nigella, and today we're talking about habits, specifically how to research them. You know the saying, we're creatures of habit? Well, in consumer behavior, that's more than just a phrase. It's the key to understanding why people buy, use, and stick with certain products and brands. A lot of companies want to create brand loyalty, but loyalty isn't just about preference. It's about our habits. The trick is figuring out what drives habitual product use. And for that, we turn to the habit loop, a behavioral framework that breaks down habits into three parts: cues, routines, and rewards. So, step one is finding the cue. The cue is the trigger that tells the brain to start a habit. It could be the time of day, it could be an emotion, a location, or even a particular sensory experience. Understanding what triggers product use is crucial because if you can't pinpoint the cue, you can't reinforce or disrupt the habit. So, how do you figure out what the cue is? You ask consumers. You ask consumers when and where they use a product. Is it a morning ritual, something they reach for when they're stressed, something they use only when they're with friends? Observe the real world behavior. Sometimes people don't consciously know what their cues are, but their actions can actually reveal them. Now, you can also look at patterns. So, if a product is consistently used at the same time or in the same situation, that's your cue. So, an example, let's look at lip balm. Why do people use it? The obvious cue might be dry lips, but for some, it's the habitual reapplication throughout the day, even if their lips aren't dry. The cue might actually be boredom or nervousness, a completely different driver than a physical need. Now, if you're a brand trying to reinforce that habit, you might position lip balm as a sensory comfort item more than just a dryness solution. Step two is understanding the routine. The routine is the actual behavior that the consumer is doing with the product use itself. It seems obvious, but the way people engage with a product can actually reveal a lot. So, for example, do people automatically reach for a product or do they have to think about it? Do they always use the same brand or do they switch based on convenience? Are they combining it with something else? An example of this can be seen in, well, let's talk about deodorant. Some people put it on right after showering, and that is their routine, but others might apply it before they head out, associating it more with social interaction than personal hygiene. This means that a deodorant brand focused on freshness all day may appeal to the first group, while the brand focused on confidence in social situations may resonate more with the second. So, how do you figure this out? Diary studies could be an option where you ask people to track when and how they use a product. You can even ask them to sort of outline the feelings that they're having at the time and all the other behaviors that sort of go around it. There's ethnographic research where you observe usage in real life settings. You can also do sensory testing. If a product's texture or scent affects how it's used, that's really important information. Step three is all about identifying the reward. And the reward is what makes the habit stick. It's the benefit, the satisfaction, the emotional payoff the consumer gets from using that product and really convinces them to want to use that product again. And this part can be tricky because people don't always easily articulate the rewards very clearly. Sometimes they think they're using a product for one reason when the real driver is something a lot deeper. An example could be take moisturizer. People say they use it because it hydrates their skin, but the real reward might be something more like the luxurious feeling when they apply it. It could be the instant glow it gives their skin after they put it on. It could just be part of their self-care ritual that helps them relax. And if you're a brand, understanding the real reward can shape how you position your product. If people are using your moisturizer as a form of self-care, You don't just market it as a hydration product, you market it as a moment of indulgence. Now let's bring all this together. So, how do you uncover the cue, routine, and reward in consumer habits? Well, first and foremost, you have to talk to consumers, but go beyond what they say. Look at when and how they use a product. Really focus on the behavior. Observe those behaviors in real life. Sometimes people don't realize why they do what they do. You got to test the different rewards as well. If changing a product's scent, texture, or experience increases habitual use, you've likely tapped into the real driver there. You can also use things like implicit association tests to see if certain rewards are being associated with something. Understanding these habit loops helps businesses and researchers and product designers do two things. One, it reinforces habits for products people already use. And the second thing you can do with it is disrupt habits when trying to introduce something new. Now, if you want to dive in a little bit deeper on some of this, check out my full blog on nerdoscientist.com, where I break down how brands can design for habit formation and habit disruption. Now, before we wrap this up, here's a question for you. What's a product you use every day without even thinking about it? Feel free to message me or tag me. I'd love to hear your take. Now, that's it for this episode of Nerdology. Now, if you found this interesting, follow along for more bite-sized behavioral science insights. And until next time, stay curious, stay experimental, and of course, stay nerdy.